All right, we're back again. I mean, like I said, after game 3 review, we're back here. Today it's just me and my man Jamie, all the way in New York City. New York, right?
Let's go.
Let's go, man. Charlie, yo, Celtics. You guys lost game 4. Hold on. How are you feeling? Are you scared? Are you, in between the moods? Or you're like, man, I was expecting it anyway?
In between. I mean, I was expecting us to win this game because we had it, right? But it's just what it is. So we move.
It's a remove movement.
Oh yeah, we've been in this position like several times. Apart from the Brooklyn series, like we've been in this situation several times. So I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah. So talking about that, aside the Brooklyn series, almost every other series you guys have, there's been, I won't say inconsistency, but you guys have failed to take an extra lead going into every series. Like every time you have the advantage to take like a 2-game lead, you drop the game. What do you think is the problem? What do you think needs to be handled for the Celtics doing playoffs?
I think they don't know how to handle success. Okay, and so they win one game, they play well, and then all of a sudden they fall back into their bad habits, and then that's what keeps killing them. And so, if you look at all the way from the Milwaukee series, they won game 1. No, sorry, they lost game 1. They won game 2. They lost game 3. They won game 4. They lost game 5, and then they had to go on the road and win game 6, and then come back home to win game 7.
Yeah,
they came back into the Miami series. They went to Miami, they lost game 1. They won game 2 in Miami, came back home, won game 3, I think. They lost game 4. I think they won game 5. And I think they were supposed to close out in 6. Yeah. And then they blew game 6. And then they had to go back to Miami to win game 7 on the road. And so they've been pretty bad at home. And then they've been very good on the road, and so I'm not afraid of them going back on the road, even though it's a different team, it's a different series, it's the finals. I think they can still get something done on the road, so that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, but what do you think? Do you think inexperience counts when it comes to your team? Because Smart, Tatum, and Brown have played for a couple of times for a while, but the rest of the guys are not, some are fresh, some are from trade, like Horford and the rest of the guys. But so then, like I'm saying, you guys have failed to close series. That's inexperience. Like, is inexperience the main reason why this thing keeps happening, or you feel it's the mentality of the players?
It could be both, right? Because if you know there's something in front of you, I don't think we know better than the players. The players definitely know the game in front of them is the game they're supposed to win.
Exactly.
But then they get on the floor and then they do, different things. Even if you go back to this game, they pretty much had the game in their hands until a few minutes to end the game. Well, we'll get to in a few seconds. But they had the game, and then all of a sudden the bad habits came back. And if you've watched this team over the course of the regular season coming into the postseason, you can see how they act when things are about to go south. And so if you're watching how I was tweeting during the game, at the point I tweeted epic collapse, because I knew it. I knew things were going bad for this team, because when things are going bad and then the whole panic meter is up there, they start doing silly things on the floor. So it's just how the team is. Maybe it could be their mentality, it could be their inexperience, but the experience talk, I think, is sometimes too overblown, because they've been in a conference final so many years. Of course, it's not a conference final, but if you've been in a conference final for so many years, the final shouldn't be so much of a jump for you. You get it? It should be just an extra stepping stone for you, but it shouldn't be too much of a jump. So it's not like they were a lottery team last year and all of a sudden this year they're in the finals. They've been in the playoffs for so many years. As in the past 6-7 years, they've been making deep runs in the playoffs. So this shouldn't be too big of a moment for them. You get it? So I think it's just mostly just the bad habits that keep resurfacing at various points in the series, especially when they've won. I mean, they feel too good and then they start acting up.
Okay. Now, like you said, they feel too good and start acting up. Your coach, Ime, going forward, what are some of the adjustments you feel he should make? Because this was people were looking at this game as a closeout game for Celtics because it's still home. I mean, you won game 3. Go for game 4. Make it a 2, a 3-1 series going into the Chase Center. But I mean, sometimes I've seen on the TL people saying Udoka made some wrong adjustments and stuff. What do you think moving forward he should do, or what do you think did wrong in this game?
I don't think there's much to be done, right? Everything was working until the players themselves, started messing up. You get it? Everything was working. Look, let me give you some stats right now. So with 5:18 to go, right?
Yeah.
With 5:18 to go.
Yeah.
Celtics up 94-90. Right?
Okay.
In the game, they lost by 10, 107-97. They scored only 3 points in the rest of the game for 5 minutes. You get it? That was like a 17-3 run. Like that is not on the coach, because at that point in the game, he has his closing lineup on the floor. Those are his best players, and then the best players went on the floor and then shot themselves in the foot. So I think it's about the coach, because everything was working.
Oh, don't you think the best players are on the floor and they are not really doing that much? You need to make some adjustments.
The adjustments, who are you going to bring on? Are you going to take off? Because mind you, he went with just eight men in this game, right? Just 8 men. And then the 8 men, he had, I think, Derek White in the closing lineup, I believe. So that means he had already gone into his bench. That means he had only 2 extra men he could bring on, Peyton Pritchard and then Grant Williams. I don't think that would have really helped anything. But I think the starting lineup should be able to do more. Mostly Jayson Tatum, right? Because he was like 8 for 23 from the field for the game. I don't think that would cut it, because 33% as the superstar on the team in a finals game, I don't think that's what's going to bring you the championship. Compared to the greatness of Stephen Curry, 43 points, he carried the team on his back, coming off of a possible ankle injury. He did all he could to put the team on his back, because the team wasn't bringing so much production for him. Speaking of
the injury, we've seen Tatum grab his shoulder a couple of times during this. Do you think that that's a bit of a problem too? Because players might feel a little discomfort, but just to make sure that they are playing their part in winning. They actually want to be on the court and prove a point. Don't you think that's also a little bit of a disadvantage for Tatum?
Well, I mean, everybody's injured, right? At this point in the season, everybody has some injuries. So I don't think that should be much of an excuse, because if you look at it very well, and we've been talking about it on Twitter all this while, he just goes around looking for fouls, right? So if you just foul hunting, trying to bait the referees into calling fouls for you, this is the finals, and they swallow their whistles at some point. It's not going to be the same way that you'd have it every time in the regular season. And so, because sometimes he even goes up for maybe a layup and then like a tough contested shot at the basket, and then all of a sudden he has his hands up, looking at the referees to call for and one. And the few seconds he spends doing those things, somebody's running down the court and then they're running in transition. So all of a sudden it's a 5-on-4, because you're up there trying to call for a foul call, whilst others are running down the floor in transition to go get a bucket. And so if you do it that way, you are letting your teammates down, because why are 4 people back down there fighting on defense and you are still now running down because you spent a few seconds trying to argue with the referees or trying to call for a foul? I don't think he should keep doing that. And then those shots of trying to swipe through or just bait people into fouls, you are a strong 6'8", 6'10" forward. You shouldn't be always impose your will on the game. That's why you had the star on the team, and you're strong. The Warriors are a small team. How the hell is Andrew Wiggins beating everybody to rebounds? 16 rebounds. How the hell is that happening with 2 big men on the team? And so it's so many moving parts on this team that's supposed to go right for them to be able to win this series. But at this point, I think they just have to, bounce back and then do the right things to put them back in the driving seat.
All right. For the Warriors, Steph Curry is
super
crazy. Unbelievable performance. I mean, 43 points, 10 boards. Oh my goodness, he was just going off from the 3-point line. And there were a couple of fouls that weren't called on Steph, especially the one that Tatum came behind when he was shooting the three. Yeah. I mean, it happens. It's like you said, it's the finals. You're not going to get every favorable call, especially when...
Yeah, I mean...
It's the referees, because there's too much intensity to be stopping plays every now and then, because it spoils the rhythm of the game. You get that. But dealing with Steph, I mean, we've seen it right from game one. He's been torching. He's been scoring. Whether they're losing, whether they're winning, he's still the best player so far in the series for the Warriors. And actually, I can say in the finals, he's been one of the most, phenomenal players on both sides of the floor. But the Celtics defense, we talked about it. Celtics has the best defense. Celtics has the #1 rated defense in the NBA and even in the playoffs, and you go into the finals. So we were thinking there's going to be stops, or they're going to figure out how to stop Steph. So far, it's not really been done. And that has, I think, been the cause of you guys, because the Warriors are not getting a lot of support from Poole and Clay. I mean, it's coming in one and there, but if they actually got that support way higher, I feel this series might have been, a kind of an advantage for them. But talking about Curry, like my question, you guys have not been able to handle Curry the way we thought you guys were able to handle other superstars like, Jimmy Butler and Giannis. I mean, you guys handle them, in a different way. But Steph, we're thinking he doesn't have the physicality. He's only a shooter. It was going to be, kind of like an easy matchup for Smart, Tatum, Brown, whatever you put on him. It's not been an easy matchup.
I don't think anybody thought it was going to be an easy matchup.
Yeah.
I just think he has so much range that you have to do a lot of things to be able to, contain him. I don't think anybody stopped the superstars. You can't stop Giannis, you can't stop LeBron, you can't stop KD. Even KD, you'd have to put so much into it. So I don't think anybody. I mean, you have to give these people their respect. They are superhumans, right? They do what only a few people in this, maybe 0.00001% of people on this earth can do, right? So you have to give them their props. Sure. And Steph Curry is just a special talent. He's just a special human being. He's just a superstar in this game. And so with the range he has, looking at how he can stand anyone on the court and then get a bucket, there's very little you can do to stop him, because in the end, there's only 5 people on the court. And with him, you probably need maybe your whole team and the bench and your coaching staff to be able to stop him, right? And so for Steph, even though there were a few mistakes here and there with the high screens and then how to guard him here and there, fine. They could have done a better job, especially with the bigs, trying to close out and things like that. I feel they did a good job maybe closing out a little bit, but I don't think that was enough, because if in the end he's still getting 40 points, 43 points from you, then probably whatever strategy you put in place didn't really work for you. So I personally don't think he won mostly because of Steph Curry, right? Because if you look at one important metric, it was Andrew Wiggins' rebound.
Yeah.
Even though he didn't have so many points, he had like 16 points and 17 rebounds. So it tells you those points went somewhere, right? Warriors points in the paint, 38 points. Boston 32, right?
Yeah.
Second chance points, 19 for Warriors, 12 for Boston. So you look at all these small differences here and there. That also put the Warriors up on Boston. You get it. And so there's a few things that went wrong for Boston, especially coming down the stretch. Because if you look at the final 5 minutes, like we went through a few minutes ago, they missed so many shots, and all those shots, most of them turned into rebounds.
Yeah, offensive.
And so, mostly they couldn't get the offensive rebounds, and it became defensive rebounds for Golden State, of which most went to Andrew Wiggins, because at a point Andrew Wiggins was like the 5 on the team, because they took Draymond off and all that, and so he just put his body on the line. He decided to be the man to sacrificed himself for the team and grab all those rebounds. In the end, it paid off. And so big shout out to Andrew Wiggins. He stepped up. And you remember on the preview show for the finals, we talked about Andrew Wiggins, right? We talked about how he had to really step up because we didn't really know how much play was going to produce for the team, and that Andrew was the one supposed to step up for the team. And I think he did that really well last night. Playing an all-round game, defense and offense. I think he's the best two-way player on the team at the moment, and then I think he's doing just good for the team. He's been a big contributor for the team.
All right. Speaking of Draymond, not been a very good series so far for him in the finals, and he's more drawing more fouls and actually making points, and not being able to be the Draymond that we know that he's been for the Warriors. I mean, actually coming into this game, people thought Draymond is the orchestrator of the Warriors offense because he's great giving out good passes. But he did grab some incredible rebounds though. That turned into Steph Curry.
Down the stretch.
Yeah, down the stretch, turning the game to 100 points for the Warriors, where they went on a little run to kind of close out the game. But so far in the series, it's not been good for Draymond. It's not been an overall best Draymond series in the finals. Do you think mentally he's gone? I mean, because there's been so much talk around him in the podcast and switching attention to the game and in the podcast and trying to better his game and stop fouling out and trying to be too aggressive and all that. Do you think? What do you think Draymond needs to do to step up his game? Because the Warriors really do need him.
Go to the basket. There's a problem, and people were even talking about this last night, comparing him to Ben Simmons, because it was the same problem Ben Simmons had last year against Atlanta Hawks in the semifinal, where he either passed up like easy layups or couldn't make his free throws. In this case, for Draymond, he just can't shoot his threes, and then he just can't get these easy layups. He's passing up like very easy layups, which I don't think is the best thing for the team, because why are you having an easy layup and then you're passing it out to somebody else, right? I mean, you're not a very big guy, but layups are not for only big people. Everybody can get a layup. And so I think it's more mental. It's not about the podcast. You can, how long is this podcast? And the podcast has a whole production team. It's a whole network. It's not just him. He just has a podcast on somebody else's network, the volume. So he just records, and then the production team takes everything over, and then they produce everything, edit, and then upload it. So it's not just him. And so spending a few minutes of your day to record a podcast, I don't think it's going to turn your world upside down, right? I mean, we are here, we are recording a podcast, but we have other things to do. And we are up all night watching the game, on Spaces discussing the game, and we are up this morning still recording a show. And it's still early in the day. There's still more things we can go ahead and do after this show. And so I don't think the podcast is the problem. The problem is what he has to do on the court. And that's where everything comes in. I don't know if you saw, but his mom was tweeting. His mom was I don't know.
He doesn't even know what's wrong.
This is a clone, right? And so you can talk about the Boston fans getting into his head and stuff like that. But I think his confidence has taken a hit, because if it's something that you are doing in back-to-back games or in like throughout a series, then it's not a fluke, right?
Yeah.
It's something that's actually happening. It's actually something that's like of real concern. And so I think we have to give much props to Coach Kerr for pulling him in the game when he did, because it was just like, okay, I'm not afraid to take you off, because at this point you're playing against us, and it worked for them. And then they put him back in, and then eventually he was able, because I think one thing they didn't want to happen was for him to foul out in a second straight game.
Yeah.
So, and then being on the floor and then blown, because even though he was defending very well, Jaylen Brown was getting everything he wanted.
Yes.
And then he wasn't being good on offense. So it was just like 4 and 5 on offense. And already the big for Golden State don't score much, like Looney and Poole. They don't score much. So it essentially had become a 3 on 5 on offense. It was just Steph, Clay, maybe if Poole was on the floor, or Wiggins, whoever was on the floor. best three guys on the floor at a point where the ones carrying the team. And so, I think it worked going forward in the series, but at least for this moment, it was able to save them the series and then, tie up the series and send the game back to San Francisco.
Okay, all right. Like you said, the bigs, and one of the things they did was offensive rebounds. Now, in game 3, one of the things that we've seen that's helped the team so far is the offensive boards. The Warriors this time around, I rebounded you guys, especially on the offensive end, and that actually gave them a second chance points. Going back into game 5 in San Francisco, in Chase Center, what do you think needs to happen, especially crashing the offensive glass? Because your bigs are not really doing much, I can say, consistently when it comes to grabbing those rebounds. What do you think needs to be done? Do you need to make sure that maybe your bigs stay in the game for too long, or still go with a small lineup?
It's simple. Get up and get the damn ball. That's it. You are 6'10", for God's sake. What are you doing? You should be able to pluck a coconut by just stretching your hand. It shouldn't be that difficult for you. Come on, you have 2 bigs on the team. I think sometimes it comes down to their communication, because sometimes communication is so bad that you don't know who. And there's something we have to talk about, and that's our Horford, right? I think usually he plays so well to start the game, and then his age catches up on him, and then going into the fourth, I think he also gets a little tired.
Yeah.
And so getting off his feet to get those rebounds becomes a problem for him. And then Robert Williams, still playing on that injured knee, it becomes but even Robert did so well in the first half. He had 10 rebounds in the first half. Mm-hmm. And then coming down later on, he had only just about 5 more. Come on. It's not going to help you, especially coming down the stretch when they are killing you on the boards, right? Their rebounds was 55 to about 36 or something like that. Yes,
rebounds was 42 to 55 in favor of the Warriors.
Yeah, so look at you. So you can run through, and then we don't have the highlights here, but we could later break down the game and then look at how all those extra rebounds, fared. And you know how the Warriors play. Yeah. If it's a defensive rebound, they get the ball and then they run in transition.
Yeah.
Right. So it's 2 things: either you are giving up the bucket or you are fouling them, and that's going to put them at the line for 2 extra shots. Or if it's an offensive rebound, you don't get offensive rebound. Someone is getting the rebound and then throwing it out to the guys on the perimeter. So it could be that play, it could be Steph, it could be anybody else. Or it could be themselves, and then they get an N1. So if you don't get the rebounds, you're not winning anything in this series. So the rebounding, that's why I said earlier that even though Steph brought the heroics into the game to help them win this game, it was more of the rebounds that caused this. Because if you are losing the rebound battle by 10 plus, then you are not going to win the game, right? So they have to do a better job getting those rebounds. But that's what keeps you in the game. Because mind you, once you get the rebounds, it buys you more time, extra 14 seconds to make another play. So if you're not getting the rebounds, you're not going anywhere.
Okay. Now, going back to Chase, do you think this game will go to a game 7? Let me start it off with that question. Do you think we are seeing a potential game 7 series?
Possibly, because now Warriors will be like, okay, we got the home court back, so let's just go home and take care of business. So, let's go home, win game 5. We are Warriors, we like to win our home floor, right? So let's go to game 6. Let them have game 6. We come back to San Francisco and then take game 7 and then lift the Larry O'Brien trophy. So I think it could possibly go 7. But one thing I wouldn't do is to count my boys out, right? Mm-hmm. They've done so much on the road this year that I feel like you never know. They could just walk into Chase and steal another game, which I don't think it's out of reach. They could possibly, they just have to do the right thing.
This is in game 1, so.
And I've been saying this since the whole postseason started, that if the Celtics play their best brand of basketball, they can win any game if they want to. But unfortunately, they are unable to do it consistently. So that's been like their Achilles heel. So let's see how this goes. But it will go 7 easily. No question.
All right. So let's just wrap things up. Your predictions. Game 6.
I'm still right. I'm still riding with my Celtics. So I'm just hoping they come out and then they play well. Tatum got to show up. Brown is your second guy, and then you can't be having similar stats as him. I mean, you are the star of the team. You haven't had even a 30-point game. I know sometimes you don't have to have 30 points, right? Because you have massive contributions from other guys. The last game, you and Smart and then Brown all had almost 30 points, like 20 plus points. That lifts off the load off of your head.
Yeah.
But if you have to go get a bucket to help your team win, like Steph did, you should be able to. 8 for 23 is not going to win you an NBA championship.
Okay. All right. So you're sticking with your guys to, it's not out of reach. Like you said, it's not.
Through and through. I've been with them in the bad times. I'm not going to jump off the bandwagon. No.
I mean, through and through.
I'm riding with my guys.
Yeah, through and through, it's been good. We've seen the lapses in the team. I mean, you've talked about it. You've given solutions. Hopefully, it reaches out to the team, and then they can actually, come back better. So, game 5 on Monday, 9 p.m. Eastern time. Over here in Ghana, it's 1 a.m. Again, once again, you have to wake up pretty early, and it's a Monday too. So, Charlie, people will leave their hands. But no, another interesting question. Hypothetically, we're going to use hypothetical, examples in here. Should Celtics, your team, win the finals, who do you think deserves the MVP, Brown or Tatum?
So what I think is going to happen is, I think at some point, Tatum is going to have an explosive game, maybe a 40-point game, and then that's because by default, everybody thinks he's supposed to be the finals MVP, right? And Brown is supposed to work for his finals MVP. So now, unless Tatum comes out and then plays like so big, maybe a few.
So you're saying star power has more to play in the finals?
Oh, of course. I mean, if LeBron is on your team, you don't expect anybody else to win finals MVP, right? It's the same thing. The best player on the team is most likely going to be your finals MVP, but it's not always the situation.
Yeah, because
right. Yeah. So it's not always going to be the situation. But to me, it's been Brown, because in all the times that Tatum hasn't been good, he has been the one holding us down. So, I mean, as much as I love Tatum, I'd rather reward Brown for that.
Okay, all right. So, for me, I think for Warriors, we already know Steph Curry has just been torching, and he's been, wow.
Yeah, he's been incredible. I just big shouts to him. Game recognized him. I love what he's doing, because there's so much on the line for him, legacy-wise. So he's just trying to win this.
Actually, about that, do you really think at this point of Steph's career and what he's shown us in this final so far, does he really still need a finals MVP to solidify his place?
Oh yeah, he does. Not because he's supposed to, right? But because context matters, right? He was on a team without KD, and then Iguodala won it. And then KD joined the team with KD for the 2 straight finals. KD was the finals MVP. And then KD left. And then there's been so much talk about, can Steph win by himself? Can Steph do this? Is Steph really a top 10 player of all time? And so I think the finals MVP is just supposed to come in and then, boost his resume. I mean, he has a very good resume already, but he needs that one in his arsenal to, have that leverage when it comes to these talks. I think he needs it. I mean, why wouldn't you want to be a finals MVP when you've won 4 championships and then you are such big of a superstar on the team? I think he needs at least 1 finals MVP.
Okay, all right. Like you're saying, at least 1 finals MVP. So, wrap things up. We'll be back after game 5 to see what happened, to talk about who's going home with the championship. Does game 5 actually call the series, or you still think it doesn't?
Oh no, I think game 6 does. I think game 6 does, because if Warriors win game 5 at home, Boston can come back home and win in game 6, because historically they haven't lost back-to-back games.
Yes.
Right? And then once they lose a game, they bounce back. And so I would expect that to happen even if they lose on the road, right? So that's why I'm expecting them to maybe put up an effort to win on the road. But I understand it's a road game. The Warriors will try to protect home. So even if they lose on the road, I suppose they come back home and then take care of business and then win games, then head back to San Francisco for game 7.
All right, so there you have it. We'll be back on Monday, predominantly maybe Tuesday, but Monday, to give you guys a review of what happened in Game 5. It's the OMN Podcast NBA. I'm doing this with my brother Jamie all the way in New York City. Me, Derek, right here in Ghana. Catch us on the TL as always. We give you great content on basketball. Subscribe to the channel, and there's more amazing content coming your way on the OMN channel. So yeah, as always, follow us. I'll put the handle right there so you guys can follow Jamie. You follow me as well, and then we'll talk everything basketball on Twitter, Facebook, everywhere you find us. Just talk everything basketball, and we got the answers for you. So until then, again, it's peace out.